There's more to art education than learning to draw or dance. There's communication, examination, and according to Jami Bevans, president of the Texas Art Education Association, basic arts training can come in handy when conducting surgery. Welcome to BexarCast. I'm Randy Langford, and this is BexarCast, a weekly interview with business, political, education, and nonprofit leaders. We're examining the relationships between all four and how each one benefits from the success of the other three. Jami Bevans is putting her 34 years of experience as a high school art teacher to good use as the president of the Texas Art Education Association. She's also putting her Bachelor's of Fine Arts from Stephen F. Austin to good use, creating videos of her most successful lessons to share with other art educators. Jami received the Outstanding Educator Award from the George Bush Presidential Library in 2008 and was named the TAEA High School Art Educator of the Year in 2013. She was inducted into the TAEA Distinguished Fellows in 2018. In what little spare time she has, she enjoys gardening, painting, writing, and a quiet cup of tea on the porch. Jami, thanks for joining me. I appreciate you making some time for me.
You're welcome. I appreciate you having me today.
My pleasure. I'm excited to have the president of the Texas Art Education Association. Um, as I understand it, and keep me honest here, the TAEA promotes visual arts in schools and advocates for Texas arts teachers. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Basically, we're all about education and educating our students and promoting the fine arts and especially the visual arts.
And
So,
why is that important? I have my own opinion, but let me ask the expert. Why is that important?
well, basically, it's about educating the whole child. And we just got through putting on this conference, and one of the little workshops that came through was a presentation from a librarian, and she was talking about the importance of the smaller child and learning dexterity, learning your colors, just just everything, but that it was just really, really important to catch them at an early age. And another thing that came to light was an article that was written in 2018 by a college professor in the UK, and he was talking about the fact that his surgery students didn't have the dexterity anymore to actually, sew, to do the sutures. And so art is not just about, learning how to draw and paint and all this kind of thing. It actually teaches that child some real valuable skills that they can carry on through any job, not
Like
just an art related job.
like motor
So
skills, hand-eye coordination?
hand-eye coordination,
Wow.
you know, um, even color theory. Think about, a businessman that has to dress for something, for a client, and choosing the right colors to make your presentation. So they're just, the art colors our entire life when
Wow.
you think about it and you
Yeah,
put it in that context.
I'm with you. I'm with you. And we have to acknowledge the elephant in the room. How has the pandemic affected arts education and arts educators?
Oh my God. Well, you know, our art teachers are resilient. They bounced back so quickly. They're still asking for help. They're still wanting help. One of the things that affected TAEA directly was the fact that we couldn't have our physical conference. So we scrambled and we put together a virtual conference that's just amazing. And in doing that, we had 200 workshops. That's 200 teachers that came through and said, I am going to give you some material so I can help other teachers. So I think it just it helped our bond get a little bit stronger because
Right.
we were scrambling to help each other. um, and I think it's going to change the face of education on a permanent, excuse me, on a permanent basis as well. The teachers had to teach themselves new skills. they're having to learn how to edit video. They're having to learn how to use Zoom, and they're learning how to connect to their students differently. All of these things wrapped up into one bundle of, teaching differently. And so they had to reinvent the wheel, and they had to do it really quickly.
They had to do it while
So
the wheel was turning. They had to reinvent the wheel while
they
it was turning.
did. They did. And they did such an amazing job. I'm just amazed at some of the things that are going on. The sharing of ideas through either conferences or workshops. And of course, my plug, our conference, we just found out we're going to extend it until the end of January, because we're getting teachers from other states coming in to view some of these presentations.
No kidding.
And some of the presentations are, how do we teach online? How do we take care of ourselves? That social emotional learning,
Right.
that's a huge buzzword right now too, is because the teachers are working overtime. We worked 60 hours a week anyway,
Right.
and now we're literally working 70 hours a week and barely getting
Unbelievable.
any sleep, right?
And I
You
have
know,
such respect for teachers. That's one of the things about Bearfest is that I know it's not easy to bring a team to Bearfest. You have to get your kids together. You have to uh, do all that background work that is just one more thing a teacher has to do. They got plenty to do. Like you say, they're already working plenty of hours. And I have nothing but respect for a teacher that says, yeah, I'll take on that extra work, that extra responsibility to take these kids to this festival. And congratulations. Thank you
yeah.
for accepting that challenge. Um, what resonates most with me, I guess, about TAEA and where those lines cross between you and what we're doing at Bearfest is one of the biggest goals of Bearfest is giving students a chance to express their creativity, not only for the sake of itself, for creativity for its own sake, but for it, to make an impact, to do something creative that will have an impact. And I'd like to get your thoughts on the value of giving students that opportunity. What's the payoff of asking students to create something with the understanding this is going to go out into the world and influence people?
Oh, wow. I think it's just a win-win for everyone, obviously. But, the students struggle sometimes to find those things that they can do that will enrich their college applications. That's one plus, right?
Right.
But I also think they struggle with finding ways to get out into the public with their art, and that this is just jumping off spot, a place for them to start, and giving back to the community that's just that just makes you warm inside. So how can that not be a good thing for these students?
Right.
um, and with the creativity, again, it's just about giving them that chance and that opportunity to do more with their art than just hide it in a closet or hang it on a mom's refrigerator, right?
Hey, don't underrate refrigerator art. That's about as far as I ever got. Um, Part of the TAEA mission, as I understand it, is based on the idea that the visual arts develop, and we were just talking about this, critical and creative thinkers. And that's certainly an element of Bearfest. We're deliberately putting students in an awkward situation where they're working with a client to create media to advance that client's nonprofit mission. They, it would have been easy when we were designing Bearfest, when we were creating this, is just tell the students, go make a video about your band or your cafeteria or
Mhm.
something about your school. But we didn't do that. We wanted to put them in that position where they have to collaborate with a client and address a specific objective. I'd like your take on what's the educational value of that experience. They're making art, but does the agenda, does the fundraising or recruitment agenda, the fact that they're making art for with the end goal in mind, does that change the lesson any?
I think it makes the lesson more valuable, perhaps. Collaboration is actually, a big buzzword now,
Oh yeah.
and working in teams. I know that you know our video person a couple of years ago, she started changing the way she taught by having her students work in teams, in groups. And I think that collaboration is an important element. But not only that, you're creating for a client, so the client is always right, even
Even
when
when
they're
they're
wrong,
wrong.
right?
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Because the client is, that's they're not necessarily paying these students, but they're paying them with, this valuable opportunity. So you want to get that right for that client, and a student doesn't always understand that do-over. It's, I've created art, you should like it for what it is. And you're like, no, that's not what they want. And so you can't be married to your work. That is the valuable lesson right there, is that when you're in this kind of a business, and if you ever went into that kind of a business, you can't be married to your work. You have to be able to divorce yourself from it and make it something more, right? I think also there's that networking. They always say it's who you know and not necessarily what you can do. You have to know people, and you have to start developing those skills for networking. It's going to instill confidence in those kids as well. It gives them that chance to build their self-esteem and have confidence in their work and what they're able to do, because you're actually stretching them and forcing them to do something out of their comfort zone, right?
And that's very deliberate. Again, we put them in that position where you have to deal with a client. You have to take feedback. You have to incorporate what they want. They're like you say, they're the paying customer. You're not just creating this because you want to do it. It's you have somebody you have to answer to. And we also, to your networking point, we also put them in that awkward position at 16, 17, 18, to where when they're out in the real world, no matter what career they go into, and we're pretty realistic that most of the kids in BexarCast are not going to go into the media. But if you're a lawyer, if you're a doctor, if you're any career, you're going to have to sit across the table from somebody and have a conversation. So learning to do that at 16 or 17 is, to me, would have to be a value at 22, 23, when you're out in the real world doing it for real, for keeps.
Yes, big time. And just being able to talk to people. I had a student just recently who went on job interview right after, was basically graduated right before the pandemic, right? And went on this job interview, and she was just amazed at the number of interviews, because it was a group interview that they started with. They did it as a group interview, that the other people in the room, the kids, wouldn't talk. She was the only one talking and trying to carry on the conversation, but it landed her a job, and so, yeah, that is a definite skill to have, is the ability to talk to people and to carry that conversation.
Once you've been in that situation once, it's easier. The second time, it's easier. The third time, the fourth time, it gets easier every time. But you gotta put in the hours. You gotta go through that squirmy little situation.
Right.
What about the cultural experience? Students in BexarCast work with a nonprofit for a considerable amount of time. They're embedded for several weeks. They're interviewing the organization's leaders and maybe some of the volunteers or staff members, and they document people working toward a common cause. And in the course of doing that, they see people exhibiting empathy and compassion, and they are immersed in that culture of the nonprofit organization. Does that have any impact on their art? And does it make them better students?
I always told my students the more experiences you can have, the richer your art. Because your art is based on your experiences. Really, if you don't have any experiences at all, if you come to the table and you don't have any experiences, all you're going to draw are things that are just, maybe snapshots and pictures and still lifes. You're not going to be able to communicate a richer idea unless you have something richer to say. So, art is communication, and any type of art, whether it's music or dance or drama, it's all communication. And the more you experience, the more you can communicate a bigger picture,
The
a
better
bigger
your
idea.
vocabulary. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
So there's more to TAEA than just arts advocacy. There's the Visual Arts Scholastic event, VACE. Uh, that's a competition for student artists, right?
Yes, sir. But it's more than a competition because the students are actually competing against themselves at first. So we set it up with an interview component, and it was born about 1993. I actually held my first event in 1994. So it's been around a long, and it's changed over the years, but the students create art and then they actually go in and give an interview, and they talk to a judge about their art. They defend their art, which is just an invaluable experience to them because
Right.
this for a lot of our kids, this is the first time they've ever had an experience with interviewing. So again, talking about that world, experience of being able to have those skills later
Mhm.
down the road. And then we have a component for high school that 10% of those pieces that are given the highest rating, so it's rated, have the opportunity to go to state, and then they compete at the state level. So it's got some different, components built in, but it's just an awesome event.
The idea of having the kids do an interview around defending their art or explaining their art. Um, I've had teachers tell me as a result of Bearfest that they have kids in their class that, yeah, I'm fine working behind the camera. I just want to be the editor. I don't really need to interact with anybody. And that's one of the reasons the thought was, let's make this a team event, because art is a team event. Nobody creates a video or a film by themselves. It takes more than one person. So we made it a team event. And I've had teachers tell me that they have these shy, retiring kids that start out with, I just want to be in the background, I'll just do the editing. And as the process goes on, they start to express themselves and bring their ideas to the table and step up and say, no, I have an opinion, I have a perspective, and you're going to hear it. Is that part of what comes out of the interview process that these kids are going through?
Sort of. I think it's a little bit more individualized because it's
Right.
not a group effort,
Sure.
but they still have to talk about the art and talk the vocabulary. Um, they also have to write. There's a writing component.
Oh, wow.
Students have a difficult time writing. So I guess we're kind of helping out the English teachers here, but we have questions that they have to answer that they actually put on the back of the artwork that acts as our interview for the state level. But those questions dive deeper. It's like, tell me about your art. Tell me what makes it special. Explain to me what it means. And sometimes the kids just do art and they don't know what it means.
They haven't
So
thought
they
about it.
have to
Right.
they have to rethink the thought. What am I trying to say? And
Right.
I think it makes them a better artist down the line. Now the
Sure.
judge will come back and give their opinion. and critique. So it's a critique process,
Hmm.
and they'll critique the artwork and say, hey, wow, this area right here is just so engaging, and I am into this. However, I think you could do a little bit more here, and the value could be a little bit stronger. Or what if you did this and it would make your statement even better. So, and then they have that conversation, and it gets the kids thinking. So then they think, what is my next piece going to look like? What can I do better with my next piece? And that's how they grow, to have that
Sure,
critique component.
sure.
I don't know, does
That's
BexarCast have kind of a critique
Yes, we
component
do.
that they do?
All the entries come into me, and then I hand them off to our panel of judges. And we have judges for graphic design, for video, for original music, and for still photography. So we give the kids genuine feedback about what they, just exactly as you're explaining it. You did a good job here. Hey, did you think about this? Because we want it to be a valuable experience. It's not just for the sake of doing it. I mean, you're contributing to society. You're making an impact on the community, and in return, you get some feedback on your work and to help you do a better job next time. Um, Tell me about the Texas Arts Education Foundation. I didn't know there was a foundation.
It's relatively new.
Okay.
And I should have looked up exactly when we started it, but we started it probably about, I'm going to say about maybe 6 or 8 years ago. And it was a way to help us manage the scholarships and the grants that we give out, and to help us grow the money so that we could give out more. Because
Sure.
that's, what a foundation does. It helps grow that money so that you can eventually give more and more and more. So we have scholarships that we give out to students. We could give out a scholarship to well, to the ones that apply that make that cut. But we give out scholarships to students who want to be art teachers, because we're trying to grow art teachers.
Okay.
We actually give out scholarships through our VACE program.
Hmm.
And so TAFE, we call it TAFE, manages that for us and helps us with that a little bit. And then we also give grants. We give grants to our teachers
Hmm.
who want to experiment or do something interesting in their classroom. So we've got all kinds of programs that are going on. Oh, yeah, and we even give a scholarship to like a first-time teacher who wants to attend conference and can't afford to.
Nice.
So, we we do some good work.
Nice. Yeah, you do. And the Texas Art Education Outreach. That's another element. Tell me about that.
Okay, that one is also relatively new. It actually started, I think, about 2012. The
Right.
idea, the idea was born. We are actually launching it on our website in January. I'm not sure exactly the date. I want to say January 8th.
Okay, let me put you on
But
the spot and ask for that website address.
yeah, you could. But it's a way to connect new teachers that need help, or any teacher that needs help, with a seasoned teacher that has time to give back. And it was especially a way to get our retired teachers
Hmm.
still involved.
So kind of a
Just
mentoring
doesn't mean
program?
they're dead. Yeah, it's a mentoring program.
Okay.
And we, through that program, we are also able to connect maybe presenters with school districts that need PD, some kind of professional development,
Okay.
especially the smaller schools. I think it's harder
Sure.
for them. So, we'll have a list of our seasoned presenters that are willing to travel. And when the pandemic is over, right?
When we can travel again,
When
right?
we can travel, to help out other teachers. Because
Yeah.
again, I think I think art education is one of the best areas in education that share. We play very nicely in the sandbox together.
Good for you. Good. I'm glad.
Yeah.
And I, again, nothing but respect for teachers. I don't have nearly the courage to be a school teacher, but I try to help students in my own way. And I just want to thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for TAEA. And thanks for joining me. Thanks for bringing your insights. I appreciate your time.
Well, thank you for having me.
My
And
pleasure.
TAEA thanks you for for letting us, put in a little plug for ourselves. But
Absolutely.